Corruption at the heart of the Boris government, and we expose the lockdown's dodgy contracts. Hello everyone and welcome to the second video of the night. In the first video we talked about the Labour Party and the mess that we are seeing in the opposition, Her Majesty's loyal opposition. This video is about our government, or again, Her Majesty's government, because we are now seeing new evidence of corruption, of crony capitalism when it comes to private contracts, and everything else has been happening since March, since the government introduced the lockdowns and restrictions. Obviously with that came a lot of other responsibilities when it comes to contracts for PPEs, financial contracts to support the NHS and everything else. Now, thanks to the National Audit Office, we have now new evidence of the exact numbers and also the sort of contracts that they've been signing with absolutely incompetent and inexperienced firms and individuals, a lot of them based on nepotism, a lot of them based on contacts that they had with the government officials and politicians. This is not really a good look for the British government, and I understand that a lot of people who watch this channel are, Tory supporters, Boris supporters. This is actually goes deeper than that, and that's why we have to be objective. This is about the government in general, and so the whole point of this is that the latest headline in the Mail, that obviously has been backed up by the National Audit Office documents, is that £18 billion cash has been spent on these contracts for, as they say, cronies. And the issue is that, firstly, that Downing Street are not really justifying it properly. They're not apologising because it's been a mess. It's not just because they've spent £18 billion. That's not the problem here. The problem is that these contracts went to the wrong people just because they had contacts. Nothing was delivered properly, especially when it comes to PPE and testing. And we're going to actually expose them in this video. So the NAO, the National Audit Office, looked at 8,600 contracts that's been awarded by the government from January to July. 8,600 contracts. That's literally bureaucracy on steroid. I don't understand what they were thinking. Do you actually need to make everything so small, all these tiny contracts for every area and with every single tiny firm for PPEs and testing? Now, when you look into the whole situation, is that the £18 billion cash been awarded, and they've been giving, all these private providers have been given VIP access. I mean, why? Now, a lot of people are always talking about, for example, our healthcare system, the NHS, that relies on private providers. And I'm a capitalist. I'm in favour, absolutely. But you need to scrutinise these contracts. And because since January and March onwards, all the journalists and the mainstream media have been so busy with gossip in Westminster, whether it was Dominic Cummings going to Barnard Castle, whether it was, where is Boris Johnson, where is Jeremy Corbyn, now Sir Keir Starmer. No one's actually been talking about or trying to figure out the truth about a lot of these things, whether it was the contracts, whether it was the data coming out of the government on the lockdown and a number of new cases. We're now finally discovering what's been happening. It's not a good look, guys, because this review of Britain's spending watchdog by NAO, talking about all these contracts, there is a situation where investigations now obviously started. We have a list of, it's more of like a collage of photos of most of the big contracts that's been awarded. This is just a few of them, by the way. Let's have a look at it because, firstly, you have Kate Bingham, who's the chair of the UK Vaccine Task Force. Who is she? She is married to the Conservative MP Jesse Norman. Next, we have PPE MedPro. Again, this firm was set up by Anthony Page, who's obviously, they've been providing branding services to one of the Conservative peers. Then we also have Avanda Capital. That's obviously, the whole deal was brokered by Andrew Mills, who was one of the advisors to the Board of Trade, working with Liz Truss. We also have someone who was connected to David Cameron, the SG Recruitment UK Limited, the staffing agency that's also been helping with the contracts. Also had links to someone who was obviously part of the Conservative, well, West Oxfordshire Conservative Association. He was a former president and a close friend of David Cameron. There's so many. Obviously, top right, we have our favourite, Dido Harding. If you don't know who Dido Harding is, she's married to the Conservative MP John Penrose, and she's the head of the NHS Test and Trace programme. We also have, obviously, Public First, connected to Dominic Cummings and also his wife. And then at the bottom, you have Serco. Yeah, we all know Serco. They have one of the biggest contracts, £214 million awarded to Serco. And we know that Rupert Soames, who's obviously brother of the former Tory MP Sir Nicholas, is linked, but also Edward Arger. And you can see all these pictures, all these graphs. One of them is obviously Randux, £479 billion, almost 500 million for, again, testing. Conservative MP Owen Paterson is paid £100,000 a year to act as a consultant for this company. This has been an absolute chaotic situation. Every single firm has been linked. I know that some people might say, well, that's irrelevant. Some people are just happen to be linked to these companies. That would be fine if it was only a few people connected to some of these companies. Not every single firm and contract being linked to people at the top. And this is the problem that we have. And I think one thing that needs to be actually scrutinized properly is what was the process for selecting these contracts and awarding these contracts? Because at this point, all we can see is the current evidence. And the numbers are extraordinary. Some of these kind of companies, including Serco, when they have had other contracts with the public sector and government, they haven't been this much. So because of the current health crisis and everything else, all these private providers took advantage of it. So, everyone's been talking about how lockdown has damaged businesses across the world. Not all businesses, not these guys. They're doing really well. And I'm guessing some of their staff are on furlough. Free money, guys. Now, look at this. So we got all the bullet points thanks to the Mail, who obviously got all the information from the National Audit Office. There's so many of these shambolic contracts being given to companies with no experience. I mean, so if it was testing, whether it was PPE or anything else with the NHS, a number of these companies had no experience. And we do have one example. This is Sabia. So she's just one individual who's self-obsessed, apparently, according to herself. And she wants to be a celebrity. And she's a one-woman band, as they say. So what's happened with her is that this is one firm run by Sabia, a 23-year-old, who had set up her company 7 months earlier, despite having no experience in supplying medical equipment. So she was given a contract worth up to £180,000 to supply 55,000 equipment. So that's interesting, right? The self-confessed party girl was paid almost £500,000 up front before she even delivered anything. And although she said that her cut of the deal was just pocket money. Oh yeah, pocket money for Sabia. She has told the Mail that she acted as a go-between for a wholesaler in Hong Kong. Yeah, because that's going to help. She was given £500,000 before anything was delivered, and apparently it wasn't even her. It was someone in Hong Kong who was going to be doing it, and they failed to do it. So, well done, government. This is absolutely embarrassing. And all these MPs in Parliament who are so obsessed with their own Westminster Village, all the gossip, again, whether it was Dominic Cummings, Carrie Symonds, or currently with Jeremy Corbyn and everything else. Where are the journalists? If it weren't for the Mail publishing this, and if it weren't for the National Audit Office, actually people going to them to actually ask for this information, we wouldn't have known for months and months. So this is exactly what we are calling, obviously, to have a proper inquiry into the whole situation, not just the contracts, all the decisions from various governments in the West, and so whether the data that were given to us about the new cases and everything else were right, because we know that was not true. A lot of errors, a lot of intentional situations. So you remember back in March and April, you had Dr. Jenny Harris, who was made by Boris Johnson to do a video. So Boris Johnson, as Prime Minister, interviewed her on his YouTube channel to talk about face masks and how face masks are not effective. And so Dr. Jenny Harris explained how, yes, face masks, yeah, don't use them, there's no point. Now we found out it's because at the time, because they were lacking when it comes to PPE, they didn't have enough, so they didn't want to push it. But the moment they got all this contract sorted by June, July, when the restaurants and pubs and everything is open, they decided to change their line and say, oh, face masks are now suddenly very effective. I mean, we've gone for decades with the World Health Organization and everybody else and scientists who know whether masks work or not and how much does it actually help. Suddenly, it only took us, within 2 months, we discovered, oh yeah, you know what we thought before, that face masks are useless. Now they're very good. Well, it's all politics. And the Treasury have been responsible. So this is exactly why we make these videos, and we have to be objective. So as I said, if you're a Boris supporter, try not to be biased or tribal, because it's not really about him as an individual. It's the whole system that's been corrupt for a while, and we only discovered it because of the current situation. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed the content and if you want to hear more from this channel, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell next to it and click on all, not personalized. Thanks again for watching. I'm Tousi, and I'll see you guys in the next video.